So over here on the underside, there's a couple ridges as well. So with the actual motor mount, what you're looking for is perfect symmetry with the actual mount body, so this part down here, with the frame rail right here. You want this to be perfectly aligned. If you look down on the frame side, that bottom portion, you want to make sure that's perfectly aligned as well. And then the most important part, how this actually aligns with the engine mount itself. So you want maybe 1.5 millimeters of distance between this and the lip of the bracket, the block mounting bracket there. And then what a lot of people miss right here, this gap between the block mount and your mount slash the frame rail should be pretty exactly 10 millimeters. Give or take maybe 1/3 of a millimeter, but it should be almost exactly 10 millimeters. And if a good way to kind of guess, I mean, if you don't have measuring tool or something like that, it should be about an index finger, right up to, obviously everybody's going to have different size fingers, but I have medium-sized hands, and 10 millimeters is about the same size as my finger. That one's easy. This one, this is where the issues, I think, start to happen. So the trans mount is very tricky to get right. What happens is people jack up their car to replace this, and over time, the hydraulics in the jack or something like that, pressure's lost, the whole thing will drop, and then people will just, instead of jacking this back up again, they'll flex this part on the rubber to force those bolts in there. And then tightening the bolts is what brings, it almost reverse syncs up the trans and the engine to get it into place. And that's an issue. But if you look, there's a couple things you want to look out for. So when installing this, the part that actually goes to the frame, so that's underneath all this wiring for the ECU and underneath the ECU, that part is not nearly as important as how these actually go into that trans mount bracket. So those, just push them back as far as you can. So the 4 that go into the frame, push the entire thing as far back as you can to get a clean thread through. So have it back as far as you can. And then what you're looking for, you want this thing to go in to these 3 thread holes without any flex on this rubber piece, which is more difficult said than done. So you want this to not be flexing, which is putting stress on that, and then the dog bone, you want that to be perfectly even with each other, and then you want this to be at idle position. So no flex, rubber's equal, load is equal. And if you catch it, there's a little trick. VW thought of this. They put an alignment hole down into the actual bracket here. So you can put a pencil or something like that to exaggerate that difference. But that's one of the biggest key things you want to look out for.